All right, welcome back. Yes, we will be talking about, we're talking to the governor of Edo State. In fact, we do have him set for us, His Excellency Godwin Obaseki, governor of Edo State. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us today on the program.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, we're doing good here. Now, looking at the NCDC figures, the recent one, Edo State recorded 27 new cases, but before this was 19. So cumulatively, you have 218 cases, according to the same NCDC. But listening to that short tape of yours where you were talking about the target of how many you plan to test, I think 300,000, you screened 200,000. But could you tell us how many, where are you in that target at the moment?
Thank you very much. As of this morning, we have screened just in excess of 262,000 of our citizens. What this implies is that we have stations across the state, and particularly at the epicenter of the crisis, which is the larger, the metropolitan Benin area, where we have points, mobile locations, hospitals, primary healthcare centers, where we have stationed nurses, lab technologists who have been trained to interview citizens to try and find out their medical conditions, their medical history, to see whether they've had contacts with people who traveled in from outside the state, and a whole series of questions, and then take their temperature and do a few other medical tests on them. That's what screening involves. From that process, you identify people who you suspect have, symptoms, and samples are collected from those people and sent to either of the two PCR labs we have in the state for now for tests. And when those samples come back, we then can confirm if such people have contracted the virus or not. And if they have, we then take them into our treatment centers.
Mr. Governor, one of the things that comes to me the moment I heard the figures that you gave out, the number of tests that have been conducted and the number of positive cases as of today, is looking in the region of some 1% or thereabout. So then the question that comes to my mind is, how disruptive has this been for Edo State in particular?
It's actually 11%, not 1%.
Oh, okay.
It's 11%. And the challenge with with this virus is because it spreads so rapidly, it's so fast. It can overwhelm a system, can overwhelm a health system. So you want to reduce the number of people who have contracted, contracted the virus. 11% of 100,000 is a lot of people, and so let's not look at the fact that it's just a few hundreds now. The problem is that it potentially could be thousands in a few weeks. That's the scare.
But then, how many have been tested? We talked about the number of people screened and all of that, but how many have been tested before we got to 218 cases that are positive?
We have tested 1,543 cases. That is, we've taken 1,543 samples to the laboratory. But don't forget, we had to install a second PCR laboratory at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital a couple of weeks ago. That's now functioning. So we have more testing capacity. So we're able to get more samples to the laboratory. That's why we're seeing more cases. If you don't test, what you don't know, if you don't test, if you don't have data, you don't know.
Now, I'm looking at the figures from last week. That's last week, this time last week, and then today, seeing that the cases have, almost doubled. And I understand that the PTF, of course, has guidelines that it reels out per time. And there's always that issue about when it comes from the center, how do states internalize it? So how are you doing this? Because there are projections that we have not even gotten to our peak yet. So how are you internalizing the PTF's guidelines vis-a-vis your current situation? I understand that you also have your guidelines. So how are they meeting together?
The guidelines are aligned. The challenge we have is that COVID-19, the virus, is now in the community and spreading fast within the community. And in aligning with the guidelines, we had to focus a lot more on risk communication, getting our people to know that COVID-19 is real and it can kill. And I don't know of other states, but you cannot go by any streets, any major streets, without seeing information, flyers, banners, giving information as to what to do with social distancing. You cannot go by, you cannot tune into the local radio stations or television stations without being bombarded with a lot of information. It is because of the level of awareness we have created. That's why many more people are coming out to come and get screened. And by doing so, we now understand and know how much penetration or how much spread this virus now has within our communities. The other thing we have done, according to the guidelines, we have almost 100 contact tracers, and we're doubling that number, who follow up on every case that is reported. And that way, we are able to get people who we suspect or people who have been in contact with positive cases to get screened and tested. And the truth is that we're going to see these numbers go up rapidly in the next couple of weeks. And it's not strange. It's not something we didn't know about, because at the onset, we sat down with our specialists at the Iroa Specialist Hospital and the University of Benin Teaching Hospital to undertake an epidemiological survey, of this virus for Edo State. Don't forget, we are a state that is prone, will be prone to the spread of coronavirus because we have quite a number of our citizens who live abroad, particularly in Europe, and many of them started coming back home immediately as soon as there was an outbreak in Europe. So that's why we decided to take these measures and make sure that all the measures we've taken are totally aligned with the NCDC guidelines, and which have been further amplified by the PTF.
Now, there are those itching to fully reopen economies. There are those pushing for it, saying that we need to take care of people's livelihoods. And this is a tricky part. When you say that, these guidelines are aligned, we're waiting to see what will happen at the end of this extension of the East lockdown. Would we move on to the next phase or stay in this phase? In the event that the PTF says, at the federal government level says, well, we're staying in this phase, and you have enough data to think, let's move on to another phase, how would you handle that?
Yes, we aligned with the PTF, but there's some variances. For instance, from the onset, we never totally locked down Edo State. We knew that we had to, undertake that careful balance between between living and livelihoods. And that, I believe, our citizens did appreciate, because we restricted movements, but not totally. We allowed people to still go about some economic activities, as long as they observed social distancing rules. So we don't have a total lockdown in the state. We were the first state to make wearing face masks compulsory as part of ensuring that we control the spread while allowing people to go about their lives. Yes, we cannot live a permanent life of lockdown. Yes, we have to begin to think about living with this virus. And we anticipate that the PTF is going to come up with guidelines that will help further push for this balancing. And we are already ahead of that. We have done quite a lot of work on how to begin to open the economy. We had some research work done for us over the last week. And so we have a sense of what we need to do. But the challenge we have is we're watching the data very, very carefully. Our peak in Edo is supposed to be about the third week in June. Because of the social distancing policies we've put in place, we've shortened the doubling time, and we believe that we'll peak just about the middle of June. So whatever decisions we make as it relates to opening up, unlocking the economy and the society, we've got to ensure that we undertake it in such a way that we do not lose the gains that we have made.
All right, so there's this matter that has been on for a while, even today as well. The Executive Order 10 of 2020 signed by the president. We understand the governors are going to meet on this one. What is your impression? What's your perspective on that subject matter?
Well, like you said, the governors are meeting this afternoon to discuss it, and it will not be appropriate for me to begin to talk about a matter that we are going to take a collective decision on at this point.
Okay, so let me bring up this follow-up then, which was supposed to have preceded this question. Different states down south, ever since the northern governor decided to move their marjories back to their states of origin, some have found their way down south, and some thought, wait a minute, they don't understand what's going on. Some were intercepted by police in Edo State as well. What's going on? Was there any communication in terms of why they're finding themselves down in Edo State, for instance, and what are you doing about that?
I believe there's the issue with almajiris and just movements across the country is not peculiar to Edo State. There's pressure across the country. People are looking for livelihoods. People are looking for opportunities, and therefore, they will move, from one location to the other. Edo State is a junction state. It's a hub. Most of the traffic moving across the country moves through Edo State. And so you expect us to have a high number of people coming through. Fortunately, because of the security measures in place, because of the interstate lockdown, we've not had as many as have been reported. There's very thorough checks in all our borders, 5 or 6 borders with other states, and almost on a daily basis, I get reports from the Commissioner of Police on vehicles that have come in overnight, the ones that have been intercepted, searches undertaken, where people are found to be loaded in trucks. They're returned back to where they're coming from, and they're not allowed access into or through the state. So we've used both the national security services and also our local vigilante security in the local governments where these traffic goes through. The other thing we've done with the borders is we have screening points. You can't go through a door without being screened. And in some cases, we have rapid test result kits to check the drivers, to check the people who are accompanying the essential goods.
Your Excellency, we'll come back and then get a quick response on that rapid test kits before we then talk politics. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Well, we still have His Excellency, Godwin Obaseki, Governor of Edo State, speaking to us today on developments in Edo State. Well, Your Excellency, about the rapid test kits, which you say it's being used on the drivers, but NCDC has said time and again we should not use the rapid test kits because they are unreliable. There could be false positives, as it were. Why is this still being used?
Well, first, I am not sure that the NCDC said you should not use them. What I heard the NCDC say is that they will not accept the results from those kits as official. However, what we have done is to undertake some study on some of them. It's not every kit we use to understand the sensitivity of those kits. And, some work was done with the specialist in Iroa Teaching Hospital, and we then selected the ones we knew, we had evidence that were quite sensitive, and the level of accuracy is above 80%. But what we do, because you can't keep trucks or vehicles, within the state and wait for test results that will take PCR test results that may take up to 2 days. What we do is to use this rapid test kits for validation. So once there is when we have the reason to suspect a person, we then administer it, and if it shows positive, then we then refer that result we then take samples and still send those samples for further PCR testing. So the rapid result kits are not the final test in themselves. They just help give an indication if the person concerned, the citizen concerned, may have contracted the virus.
Okay, because I'm looking at their Twitter handle now, and they did responding to a question which people were asking. That's the NCDC, where they say, "Can I test myself?" And then NCDC replies, "No. Remember, there is no validated rapid diagnostic test kit for #COVID19. These rapid test kits can provide false results." And then they have this in caps: "Do not use." That's what's on their handle.
Yeah, what we've done is all over the world, rapid test kits are used. What the NCDC will not accept those results because they are not official and they've not been tested by, in a molecular laboratory. So all results or all samples still have to go through that NCDC process. But for us, in order to have an indication if a person may have contracted the virus, we then administer these rapid tests, particularly at the borders and at night, before we now make a determination whether to take samples from those people who have now been tested, we now have an indication beyond just the other symptoms of temperature and the profiling we have done. If we have reasons to suspect that we suspect that they could be affected, then we then administer the rapid tests. I mean, if it proves, and the ones we're using, and the ones with very high sensitivity, and if we pick the virus from that test, then we then take samples which we then send to the NCDC-approved laboratories for further testing.
One of the things, of course, that's going to happen very soon in Edo State, which the INEC has given guidelines to, is the elections. And of course, that's not just about the elections proper, but about the primaries as well. So as government, as the chief executive in charge of government in Edo State, how is government preparing for the politics and the elections coming up in Edo State very soon?
Well, you have to be alive to participate in politics. You have to be alive to be voted for. And so for me, at this point in time, my priority is to keep my citizens alive. It's only when they're there will I now be able to solicit votes from them. When I have mortality cases going up, elections cannot be the priority today. Yes, we'll participate. I trust because of the amount of work we have done in Edo State and the relationship we have with our citizens, getting re-elected will not be a challenge or a problem. What is a problem for me now is keeping my people alive.
Yeah, because, I mean, with all that work, I mean, if you endear yourself to the heart of the people, they certainly will want to see you back to continue. As a matter of fact, the APC only recently, they say they've granted waiver to Ize Yamu and that he will go ahead and contest the primaries as the candidate. What does that do to your chances?
Well, as I said, I'm not bothered. I'm not perturbed at all. The evidence is out there. As a governor of Edo State in the last 3 years, we know we've done well. The people say we have done well. And therefore, any contests will be no contests if it's not manipulated. But my party is a lawful party, and they'll do, I hope and I pray that things are done properly and in line with the party constitution. As long as they do that, we don't have any issues at all in Edo State.
Looking at the schedule that the APC released for the build-up to the election proper, but this time in the party, and I see that sale of forms will be between Wednesday 20th till next Tuesday, that's June the 2nd. So it begs the question, I know you said it's not a priority right now, and you believe that this is going to be a piece of cake for you. Have you picked your nomination form? I mean, what are you doing in the build-up to that?
I hope I can get some free time to pick up a form in Abuja, but I understand, various groups have volunteered to pick up forms for me. I know the women, market women associations, they're all competing to pick up forms. I'm sure by the weekend, I'll have a couple of forms that people would have obtained for me because they want me to contest. And it shouldn't be a problem. I've gone through the process before. I'll fill it and send it back as soon as I do get them.
Okay, that's interesting. And when you hear statements like, our doors are open, credited to the PDP, for example, what do you think of that? Is that something that you're looking into?
Well, they're free to open their doors, but I have enough doors in my own house, so I don't have any need to look out into any other person's compound for now. I'm very comfortable at home, in my home, in my APC home. I'm comfortable. Yes, there could be some issues, but those will be dealt with.
Very quickly, you said that many people are looking to pick the form for you in Abuja, and of course you are in Edo State. I'm wondering, is it an electronic form, or how is that going to be transmitted to you when there is an active interstate lockdown?
It's, that's some of the things we're exploring. I know the Edo citizens, a group of Edo citizens in Abuja called last week to inform me that they wanted to go and pick up forms if I had any objections, because they anticipated that because of the lockdown, I may not be able to get to Abuja, and that they will look for a way to transmit the forms or move the forms to Benin. I think the forms are manual, they're physical forms, they're not electronic forms. And, I'm seeing essential goods move across the country. I'm sure they'll be able to get it here to me in Benin.
But still on this political matter, Your Excellency, word out there is that, well, if the NWCE has cleared Izeyamu to contest as the party candidate, it's no secret that you are loggerheads with the national chairman, and they, the NWC led by him, will be the ones to supervise all of those primaries. So clearly, the impression is that it will be difficult for you to get that ticket.
Well, people make it sound as if APC is a charade. It's not an organized party. We are a very, very organized party. We have our constitutions, we have rules, and we subject ourselves to the rule of law. Even when some people in the party don't, it doesn't obliterate the fact that APC is a lawful party. Yes, I have issues with the national chairman. Yes, we've suspended him from the party in the state because of his anti-party activities. But I'm not sure the party will sit down and allow him be a judge in a matter in which he's involved in. That would just be against the grain of natural justice. Nobody will do that. I'm sure my party will do what they need to do when it's time. APC is not the sole property of an individual or a chairman. APC is a collection of interests. APC is a political party that's governed by rules. Even if people are lawless, it doesn't make the party lawless.
Your Excellency, that suggests you still have a frosty relationship with the chairman.
don't know about frost. I just know that I'm the governor of Edo State, and I do my duties as governor of Edo State according to the rule of law, and I expect he will do the same in Abuja.
One of the things that, from what my colleague has just raised, one of the issues on the table is that of how the primaries will be conducted. It would seem like the Edo State chapter of APC and the national body of APC have different ideas of how the primaries will be conducted.
Yes, I keep emphasizing, we are a party that's properly documented. We have a constitution, we have policies, we have rules we follow in how we conduct our affairs. And I believe that the local chapter has read the constitution of the party thoroughly and is acting in line with the constitution of the party and the practices within the party. If people decide to turn them the way they want to, well, they'll have to, we'll see.
Which one are you for? What are you looking forward to, basically, when the primaries are conducted? And who are you speaking to in the party structure? Because it seems, obviously, there are divided parties, even within your party. So how are you pulling this together?
It does not matter. Whether it's direct or indirect, I will win. Because I'm on ground and we know what we've done. We know the amount of work we've done for our people in Edo State. So that's not the issue. I think for us, the issue is doing things properly, following the rules, following the laid down the constitution of the party. We just have to be organized. We have to do things properly. That's the issue for us. So it doesn't really matter the method. It's learning to follow rules and doing things orderly and properly. Those are the issues that are of concern to us.
Okay, but we're always history, they say what can happen by what has happened before. And no pun intended for this gentleman. For instance, former governor of Lagos State was on ground too, but we know what happened. Former governor of Imo State for your party was on ground too. We know what happened. So isn't that suggesting that, look, we've seen these things play out before, and since you are not, you're still at loggerheads with the national chairman, chances are that, look, they've tested and done this thing before, so he will have his way on the day.
Well, I think it will be really unfortunate if we continue to think in that like that. We can do things that are not proper, things that are not right, and as a society we accept and we live with it and progress and go on with it. It just will not help our democracy. It will not develop our democracy. What I'm hearing you say and people like that say is that it doesn't matter what the people want. It doesn't matter the processes that have been put in place, that one or two people can just sit down, decide on what they want to do it, and nothing happens. And that is a recipe for disaster in a democracy. And I don't think it will happen in Edo. What I am concerned about is bloodshed. I don't think that elections should lead to violence and bloodshed. That's what I am more concerned about. It's about protecting my people, protecting livelihoods, and protecting lives. Some people may not care. For them, it's power at all costs. But Edo is different. Edo people are different. And we'll see what happens.
Well, you just mentioned something now about averting bloodshed come what may. And, of course, that's definitely what many people in Edo State and even the whole of Nigeria, that's what we would also want. But are there, in order to avert that, are there plans, because we know that there have been many efforts to work out peace, to resolve whatever the issues that you just mentioned you have with the national chairman are there plans on your own table to canvass for peace in the state or between you and the national chairman or anyone else that may have issues with you or you may have issues with?
We have always canvassed for peace. And you ask, what are the issues in Edo? And what are the issues that cannot be resolved in a democracy? As far as I'm concerned, we've said, look, let us use the resources of the people to develop the state. A few people said no, we are in power, or we are the power brokers, these resources should, we should be given priority because we're in charge. And so there's an ideological difference, and it shouldn't lead to bloodshed. Let's have a proper process and go and test these views out. We will not accept to be cowed and intimidated because, people feel like they can manipulate rules, they can manipulate the process. For us, the issues are very straightforward. What's the quarrel about? What's the division about? Let's test it in the public space. That's all we're saying. And that's
Your
why
Excellency, isn't it the same resources that were used to bring you to power?
No, but the resources were used to bring me to power. I worked for 8 years behind the scene to create what we had in Edo State before I became governor. I have personal resources that I spent and deployed. I have friends with resources in this country. So all that insinuation about using, somebody's resources, and having become governor was the idea for me to continue to do things in the old way or make progress. I thought that's the mantra of our party. So yes, I became governor on the platform of the party. I'm grateful for it. And, I was helped, assisted, just like everybody else who's been able to get to power has been assisted. But having been in power, what do you now do with it? Do you serve a limited interest or do you serve the general good?
So, are you insisting on getting this at all costs, the tickets, contesting for the primaries? And if that doesn't work, what would you do?
I don't know about all costs. I just believe that we have a president, we have a country who believes in the rule of law and will allow things to be done properly, fairly, transparently, and openly. It's when you not short-circuit, you short-circuit a process, you manipulate a process, then we'll deal with the consequences of it, which is really unfortunate in the development and evolution of our democracy. I am not a violent person, never have, I've never been. But I'm just confident, because the way I got into power, that same way, I'm sure I'll retain power. Somebody brought me into power. Somebody gave me power. And it's God that gave me power. And as long as he's, alive and he wants me to continue, I will. No man can stop me. Power comes from God.
That's an interesting soundbite and where to let it go. But we do thank you for talking to us this morning, Your Excellency Godwin Obaseki, Governor of Edo State. We wish you all the best.
Thank you.